It's not a surprise, and it doesn't actually show a big game changer for the North Koreans. But what it does do, is to show how dangerous the North Korean program is becoming. It's technologically sophisticated. It's becoming more and more capable. I mean, clearly these pictures that are coming out of North Korea are meant for propaganda purposes. They're meant to show, we are a big and important power, and we're as important as the United States. But that's not true. But what it does show is that they're continuing to try to develop the ability to deliver nuclear weapons through their own missile development. This is quite unusual because a lot of countries would like to have their own missiles, but they haven't got the production capacity. South Korea and Saudi Arabia, for instance, import and buy a lot of arms from abroad, but they don't have the same level of production capacity that North Korea has. And North Korea is one of the poorest countries in the world, but it does have a technologically savvy and scientifically developed infrastructure. It's a paradox, but that's actually like a lot of the old socialist countries used to be. Poor, Russia was relatively poor, but with a big advanced capacity to make modern, technologically sophisticated weapons, and that's where North Korea is today, and that's what this is showing us, that continues to be the case. There are technical and there are political reasons why the North Koreans are trying to push the fact that they are capable of developing a hypersonic missile with this sort of fuel. There are certain advantages to solid fuel, which is what this would be, because it's more stable. But there are also disadvantages for this type of development. So what's interesting about North Korea's missile development is that it's still trying to produce a whole range of different sorts of missiles. You've got the hypersonic missiles that you've just talked about, and you've got the other sorts of cruise missiles and ballistic missiles, which they're still trying to develop. So this new facility, or newish facility that they're trying to develop, actually is more of a political show-off type strategy, because it's a new technology which even the Americans have had trouble in developing and making work. The Russians and the Chinese are keen on it. It's also new for them. And it's North Korea's trying to say much more, we're the equal of the United States in technological capacity, than it is in saying we've got a missile which we will be able to use in the short term. It's not usable in the short term, but it does show, and even though it's the North Koreans are certainly nowhere near have nowhere near the same sort of capacity as the United States, it does show that they have a comparable technology capacity to the United States in weapons development. So it's a big political statement to the rest of the world that our technical capacity in some ways in armaments is as good as the United States. That's the main message of this video and this information that they put out today. We know it's got short-range capability for some of these missiles, and actually we've seen them. Probably a lot of your viewers will know that some of them have been found in the Ukraine. About 24 were found in the Ukraine. Their problem, even the short-range ones, which we do know have capability, is that they're not very accurate. Of those 24 missiles that were found in missile launches, short-range missile launches, and these were conventional, not nuclear ballistic missiles, only 2 hit the target. And South Korean intelligence has said that one of the things that they're the ones that understand North Korea's capacity the best, military capacity the best, is that these things are extremely unreliable. The sorts of engineering skills that North Korea would need to be able to develop a reliable military missile capacity are very poor indeed. And I lived in North Korea for a couple of years and know the country reasonably well. And there is nowhere in the country that has a developed industrial capacity. And the armaments industry is no different. They've got the scientific skills, but they haven't got the infrastructure and resources to make sure that everything that they produce is of a decent quality, whether this is tractors or whether it's missiles. And that's one of the problems for North Korea. In terms of the long-range missiles, and these are the ones that for the Americans constitute what's called a strategic problem, there have been some successful test fires over the years of very few, but some of these long-range missiles. But there are very few military analysts who really consider that this is as yet, a proven, reliable capacity which changes the balance of power so that North Korea would have to be seen as a major military power in the same way, say, Russia and China are considered as major military powers. They just don't have that developed, reliable capacity. But as I said right at the beginning of this, they're trying and they're continuing to develop. And this is the dangerous part of North Korea's military development because it's such an unstable region in Korea. There's still an unresolved conflict. Since President Trump went out of office, since he had a couple of summits with the North Korean leader, there's been no diplomacy between the major protagonists. And as I'm sure that, again, a lot of your listeners will know, hot wars can break out by accident, by simple escalation. And given that you've got military exercises that have been going on in the region in South Korea for at least 2 years, involving Japan and the United States, you've got North Korea engaged in the development of military capacity and also militarizing its society so that all young people, for instance, have to be basically a part of a nationwide militia. You've got a volatile situation with conflict not resolved between North Korea and South Korea, and you've got a continuing, developing, serious military capacity that can kill millions in the north, which wouldn't have to be very sophisticated. It doesn't have to get to the United States. Seoul, which is the capital of South Korea, it's only 100 miles or so from North Korea. So these missiles already could do a lot of damage if through an accident or by mistake, hot war broke out on the Korean Peninsula. There'd be a lot of people dead. North Korea would lose because it is a poor country. It is not military, doesn't have the same capacities economically or militarily as its opponents, Japan, the United States, South Korea. But there would be a lot of damage and a lot of people killed. And the UK could also be drawn into that because, as in the Korean War between 1950 and 1953, when UK troops also, in which UK troops also participated and who died in that war, it's likely that the UK would feel that it had an alliance with the United States and would send at least some troops. So this is not a far-fetched scenario. It is important that the topic that you're discussing in terms of the further development, technological improvements to North Korea's military capacity, and it does show that most of all, there is no diplomacy going on, conflict is escalating, and there seems to be no way to de-escalate the conflict on the Korean Peninsula right now.